There are places that changed you, not because of what they teach you, but because of what they let you become. The seeds a teacher plants today are the flowers and fruits that future generations will grow. This is the story of one of those places, a school in the heart of Hillsboro, Oregon, quietly, patiently, faithfully doing its work since 1914. This is the story of the seeds they plant and what grows.
St. Matthew was founded in 1914. So St. Matthew is 110 years providing Catholic education in Hillsboro for the community. Currently, we serve families that are preschool through 8th grade. There are blended classrooms here as principal at St. Matthew. I've been in Catholic education in the Archdiocese of Portland for 23 years.
23 years. That's not a job, that's a calling. I asked her why. What pulls a person to spend their life inside a school, not just teaching, but shaping young souls.
I think that I'm able to bring my faith alongside with the academics and really teach the whole child and support not just the students in the school and the faculty, but also to support the families in bringing education home and the faith life home and making it all work together.
Morning.
I think I knew in 2nd grade that being with students and seeing them succeed in life and working to support them right where they're at, I think that was my calling. I think I knew immediately in 2nd grade when we were talking about what is the career path, and my teacher at the time said, "What is it going to be?" I remember drawing a picture of myself as a classroom teacher. I'm living my purpose. This is my vocation. This is what I'm meant to do.
Every morning, families arrive at St. Matthew from different directions, different backgrounds, different languages, different stories. What they share is a search for something solid, something real, in a world that feels more and more like it's moving too fast.
So it was important to us. We wanted a private school. That was like, our choice going forward. And then we wanted a private school, and we wanted one that was in the Christian faith. We were kind of open to what, that was as far as the denomination, but we wanted one, basically where our son was learning about Jesus every day.
We were from Tennessee originally, so it has different views, different perspectives. I was raised Catholic, so when we moved here and getting adjusted to the perspective of Oregon, and just kind of what society here in Oregon and living here in Oregon was like, we wanted to make sure that we took a minute to get adjusted, and then to also think about where we want our family to fit in. And so.
Y luego hay madres como Xiomara, who didn't grow up with resources, who heard a woman speak from a pulpit with a child on her arm and two others beside her, and dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, this kind of education was possible for her family too.
Mi travesía buscando una buena educación comienza en una iglesia católica donde escucho el discurso de esta madre que se para en el ambón dando su testimonio con un niño en el brazo y otros dos a su costado de ella.
We live in a world that has spent decades telling us that faith and education don't belong in the same room, that you can't raise a whole human being without ever teaching them that they are loved by something greater than their circumstances. And we are beginning to see what that experiment has produced, a generation that is connected to everything and belongs to nothing. Lonely, anxious, hungry. And the question nobody wants to ask out loud is this: what do you do when the world you built for your children isn't enough? This family asked those questions, and the answer brought them here. We are living in the age of disconnection. We're more connected than ever and lonelier than ever. Children born after 2019 grew up with masks instead of faces, with screens instead of classrooms, with silence where community used to be. The pandemic didn't create the problem, it just made it impossible to ignore.
He wasn't really reading before he came to kindergarten. He was still struggling to identify letters or do letter sounds. I've seen him go from that to being basically caught up in reading in that 5-month span, which to me is really impressive that he's gone from, basically zero to nothing to 60. He's naturally a very curious kid. When we're reading at night, I hear that more from him, that he's trying to sound out words. And I have noticed that he's getting more confident in that area. And I think having the smaller school size where he's exposed not just to his classmates, but also to some of the upper grade levels during, recess and music class and things like that has really helped expand his confidence. He was born in 2020, so that could have been part of the experience.
Mi hija Daniela, ella estaba en el kinder cuando cae la pandemia. ¿Y qué pasa? Que ella no fue a preescolar. Entonces, le afectó tanto que ella entra a primer grado y no sabía leer, no sabía escribir. Yo hablo con Sister Tane, que fue en ese momento su maestra, y le digo, yo estoy preocupada porque mi niña, pues la agarró la pandemia y está atrasada. Y me dice ella, no te preocupes, aquí vamos a dividirlos en grupos y le vamos a dar esa atención que ella necesita.
Two mothers, different languages, different states, same fear, that the world they were handing their children was not enough. We were already drifting, already disconnecting, already raising children in a world that moves too fast to stop and ask, is this enough? Is what I'm giving them enough?
There's conversations that I've had in other schools that I was talking to a mom just the other day about it, that aren't necessarily needing to be discussed at this day and age, but it's a societal item that's brought up every day. But I just feel like not so much sheltered, because I don't believe that that's the right word, but just kind of like a little bit more of the blinders. It's a little bit more of a safety net here that I believe is truly important to keeping our kids safe. And that's what St. Matthew provides, a safe net.
I feel like there's no like hate coming from what you speak.
I'd say during lunchtime, because you get to talk freely and you can talk whenever you want, and you feel like you're sitting on the couch with your family here.
There is a really strong faith and a very strong community. A lot of that is the small school size, but it's a very strong community and strong faith culture here at St. Matthew.
And with their families, we only can see the benefits of it. And starting every day in prayer as a community just builds that bond that we're here together, and we can support each other in the good times and in the challenging times. And
Teachers here do. I feel like the teachers here definitely are more open to support you, have more one-on-one talk with you, where in public school, since there's so many kids, the teachers don't really have time to just sit and be like, hey, are you okay? Do you need help? But I feel like I've gotten a lot of help here, and it's a really big change from public school where I've gone my whole life.
I think from St. Matthew, I think I'll always take the dedication and hard work.
I think it's the attention the teachers get to the less of the students. So like if the less the students, the more attention they get. So if you need help on like an assignment, so you just help them like understand it more, basically.
I think definitely with the reading at church, you get that practice to speak in front of a bunch of people, especially on a holy days of obligation, where you might get stage fright, but still you have to go out there and preach the good news.
It's a much more smaller environment. So like the teachers have more time for you. Like in public schools, they're really big and it's hard for you to have a moment with the teachers.
I like everything about St. Matthew's, the learning, PE, music, I like everything about it.
A mí me gusta mi escuela porque todos los maestros son buena onda conmigo.
What I like about my school is that everyone here is nice and the teachers are always gonna like help you when you need it.
Recess.
Recess? Why?
Because I get to go away from my teacher sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's one of the special gifts of teaching in a Catholic school that we can talk about our faith and live out our faith in day-to-day actions with one another. And we're always able to fall back on the stories of the Gospels and how they connect to our lives today. And when we're talking with students in the good times and in the challenging moments, it's easiest to connect it to our faith and make it real. St. Matthew is special because we're able to serve the entire community of Hillsboro. We are not a private school for the elite. We're a Catholic school for the community. And any family that wants their students here at St. Matthew, we work and do our best to welcome all families into our school.
Appreciated or included in what's going on with other kids, participation, but also just what's right and what's wrong, you know, and having that mindset of morals and making sure that it's the right thing to do, and not just because it's the right thing, but it's because what should be the right thing. So we've noticed him taking a minute to say, hey, that's not okay, you know, when he's playing with other kids. Or even within our own household, you know, Mama, that's not nice, you know. It's been, he holds me accountable. He holds our family accountable. So St. Matthew has been great in that because it's instilling in his heart, it's instilling in his morals. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted him to be involved with St. Matthew.
There is a hunger that no algorithm can feed, that no screen can satisfy. It's the hunger to belong to something, to someone, to believe that you matter, not because of what you produce, but because of who you are. What do you do when the world you build for your children isn't enough? These families asked the same question, and the answer brought them here.
El hambre de venir cada domingo a escuchar la palabra de Dios, pero
There's something that's missing in your life. You gotta listen.
And my friends, I was thinking that is such good advice for us too. I'm sure that we all can recall our mothers or our fathers telling us, you gotta listen.
My faith? Well, we go to church twice a week. We go to church twice a week, and we have catechesis. I feel like that's been something very important here at St. Matthew.
My faith, because we go to church twice a week. We pray every day.
I'll also say my faith. I'll bring my faith because God helps you with everything. If you ask God to help you with the homework or you're struggling in any type of class, then He'll help you and you'll find the way.
Me gusta San Mateo porque puedo aprender de Dios y muchas cosas.
Nos invita a seguir a Cristo, a ser más serviciales.
Because, before coming to the school, the truth is I wouldn't really go to church a lot. And when I came here, I would go to church like twice a week. And I thought being able to experience that with my classmates was really, really nice.
I think that the community we have is better than public schools, and we get closer to God.
A mí me gusta ir a San Mateo porque hay muchos niños que son muy amables conmigo, como mis amigas, y también los maestros son muy buenos para enseñarnos muy cosas buenas.
For me, it's a development, one of the faith and knowing that they're loved, and then two, the character development and that sort of thoughtfulness towards others and the respect that comes with that faith as well as they grow older.
God was a part of our upbringing. So it's a very special school. It's a very special school. It's a safe school.
Creo que son los valores cristianos, la fe como tal, son los que se siembran.
St. Matthew is its own community, and I really love that. I love that he's safe here. I love that he feels like he can be his own self. We spoke about it briefly about investing in his morals, but also investing in his education, and I think that's really important. It's not for everyone. We discussed that as well. It's not for everybody, but for our family, this is what we decided was best for not only our family, but for our son, his education and his morals.
Quieren ser parte de, se sienten parte de, y eso para mí es más que suficiente.
All these families found something here: community, faith, a place where their children could become. But there is a question no one has asked yet. The one that doesn't show up in the testimonies. The one that lives in the silence between a mother and her child. What did it cost you to get here? What did you have to believe before you had any reason to believe? Some things cost more than money. They cost the willingness to believe before you have any reason to.
Mi nombre es Xiomara Mérida. Tengo 2 hijos aquí en San Mateo. Aisea se gradúa del grado 8 este año y Daniela está en el grado 6. Mi travesía buscando una buena educación comienza en una iglesia católica donde escucho el discurso de esta madre que se para en el ambón dando su testimonio con un niño en el brazo y otros 2 a su costado de ella, diciendo, no crean que poner a tu hijo en una escuela privada cuesta mucho dinero. Y ahí yo me pregunté, ¿cómo puedo hacer yo para lograr que mis hijos puedan obtener esa educación que yo quiero para ellos? Y ella ahí lo desglosó todo. Las escuelas católicas cuentan con esos programas donde no solo ven tu ingreso, sino ven tus gastos uno por uno hasta ver cómo puedes tú calificar para que tus hijos puedan contar con la educación que tú les quieres brindar.
Well, in my short time here, I've really loved the diversity that is at St. Matthew's. We've got so many families from different unique backgrounds, and they bring those cultures into the school. And students love to share about their life at home and what they're doing.
I feel like is the community. The community here is very close, very united.
The thing I like about St. Matthew is music because you can learn new music and you can play instruments. PE because I get to run around and have very good exercise. So we can play with friends and love each other. What I like in St. Matthew is I like the library because they have a lot of books and I really like reading. I like coming to school because I get to see my friends and learn new things about God. I like my friends from St. Matthew because they are nice and respectful.
The people here that work as a student or a teacher are friendly and accept new kids. Because when I moved here to this school, my friends, they were nice and friendly to me.
So we just started in September. That was when my son entered kindergarten. So just this year. So I guess that's what we were going to. It was a Christian preschool out of Calvary Chapel, Encourage Preschool. We wanted a private school and we wanted one that was in the Christian faith, basically where our son was learning about Jesus every day. And then we also wanted a school that had a Spanish focus. That was really important. My husband is half Spanish, his mom's from Spain. And so trying to find in the Hillsboro area, if you're looking for a Christian school that also has Spanish, there's kind of limited options. And we really liked how how St. Matthew's looked. And we did one of the open houses and saw the tour. And just had a really good feeling about it. We really liked just the overall feeling. I think I'm a big believer as a parent in trusting your gut and trusting your gut for your kid because you know your kid the best and what's going to be a good fit for them. We really liked Principal Jost as well. When we met her briefly at the open house, she was really welcoming and just seemed really down to earth at the same time. And then we also had a tour given by two of the older kids who were volunteering that day, and they were just really respectful, and they seemed like they had really good things to say about the school. And to me, that's like the best review you can give, really, or the best, endorsement that somebody can give is a kid who goes there, especially a kid who's like in middle school age, saying, "No, we really like our teacher. We really like this school. We've had a good experience."
So I really like art, and when we did electives in my grade, I signed up for the art elective, and it was really fun.
If we want to experience the same thing we have experienced, come to St. Matthew.
I think the biggest thing is that we have a sense of family and community. Because we're a smaller school, we get to know all of our students. I teach 5th and 6th grade, but I know all of the names of the 1st and 2nd graders. We know what everybody's working on, and we're able to kind of help each other build and grow in every subject, as well as in our faith and in our worship.
Every investment has a return date, but in education, you rarely get to see it. Most teachers plant seeds and never watch them grow. Sometimes, if you're lucky, the harvest finds you.
I had a student back when I taught 3rd grade, a little wiggly boy that struggled with the academic piece, but had the biggest heart of any student that you could imagine. And he had so much energy all of the time. And the question was, do you hear what we're trying to teach? Are you learning the lessons that we're teaching in the classroom? And inside of me, that student's going to do great things in the future. But in front of me at that moment, he was only 8. And you don't know. And just this past Ash Wednesday, the evening service at the church, he was standing there, and I walked up beside him after Mass and I said, "Is it you?" And he turned and said, "Mrs. Jost," and gave me the biggest hug and told me all about the great things he's doing in life and the family he's created and the hopes for his kids in going to Catholic education.
He's made it very important to have Jesus Christ, God, our Savior, incorporated into our conversations of daily life. It's been really interesting. We'll be talking about something, you know, him and his grandpa always love to talk about things, and it'll be something as an everyday life conversation like, you know, oh, you know, he ran that red light, you know, oh, the police is going to give him a ticket, you know, and then my dad will say something like, well, they'll be really mad, you know, because he got a ticket. And Wyatt will say something like, well, he sinned. Like, so he's bringing in Catholic morals into like everyday conversations, and it's interesting. And I'm like, oh, he sinned. That's an interesting way to put it. But he's just like making it accustomed to conversational pieces, and it's just interesting. Or he'll say, you know, Mom, I love you. And I'll say, I love you too. I love you more than anything. And he's like, not more than God. And I'm like, oh, you're right. You're right. And he's like, we always put God first. And it's just so interesting to hear a 6-year-old like be like, you love God more than me. And it's like, oh, whoops, you're right. So it's interesting. He'll say things like that.
I feel that the community that supports the school makes it really unique, and as well as the students are all coming in with such great values, and they're super respectful and kind.
The families, the interactions, all of that communication, it's just more heart-filled to me. And that I could be biased, but I enjoy speaking to the families here. I enjoy being a part of the community here.
You feel at home.
I do. I feel safe. He feels safe, and that's what's most important.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing him develop both academically, but also like in that emotional part and that self-esteem as well. It's just really good to see as a parent. Yeah.
La diferencia es el tiempo que le dedican a cada niño individualmente, en grupos. Eso hace una gran diferencia. Y hasta el día de hoy sigo creyendo firmemente que la atención que le han brindado a mis hijos y que le brindan a cada uno de los niños que está en esta escuela es indiscutiblemente espectacular. Creo que son los valores cristianos, la fe como tal, son los que se siembran desde niños. Y eso es algo que te llevas contigo para el resto de tu vida. Creo que cada momento, porque no solo porque mis hijos se han sentido parte de la comunidad, se sienten confiados, tienen el hambre de venir cada domingo a escuchar la palabra de Dios, pero quieren ser parte de, se sienten parte de, y eso para mí es más que suficiente. Sí, ahora que ya mis hijos están más grandes, lo puedo ver. Recuerdo cuando mi hijo en un momento me dijo, voy a ir a dar una vuelta con mis compañeras de la escuela, mis compañeros de la escuela, y yo le empecé a dar consejos y a decirle, ok, te voy a dejar ir, no quiero que hagas esto, esto y esto, y le empecé a leer una cartilla y me dice, Mom, no tienes que decirme lo que yo ya sé. Yo sé lo que le ofende a Dios. Me dice, eso ni siquiera deberías decírmelo. Y en ese momento yo caí en cuenta que esos valores no solo los ha aprendido de mí, pero también se los ha inculcado la escuela. Hoy por hoy quiero decirles que mi hijo, que está en grado 8, fue aceptado a una high school privada Y ese esfuerzo no ha sido solo de él, no ha sido solo mío, ha sido de los maestros que están en San Mateo. Ellos han puesto su granito de arena, su dedicación para que él pueda estar donde está el día de hoy. Y así es con cada uno de los niños. Cada centavo que tú inviertes en tu hijo es gratamente recompensado.
This is what a school can be. Not a building, not a curriculum, a place that plants something that only grows after the child leaves.
Well, I think it goes back to our mission statement. I think that's truly what each and every one of the adults in this building is working towards every day. Curious scholars that want to do well academically, that ask questions and want to work hard and learn the material. We thrive on being servants for each other and servants for our community. We have a lot of hands-on service opportunities at each grade level. And being faithful disciples of Jesus Christ, carrying out the gospel, sharing the good news with the people around us. And we're forming our minds as curious scholars,
servant leaders, and faithful disciples of Jesus Christ.